Well, usually you don't get a brand new course. Most times what you're doing is you're working with content that already exists in some format and has been delivered by someone else. So the best place to start is with the individual who's taught the course previously or someone else who has taught that course previously at another institution. And I think that the whole notion of collegiality and mentorship really comes into play in the beginning. So you ask people, or you contact people who've dealt with this material and say, how have you been successful with it? What are you doing? Can I have your syllabus? Are you using a textbook? What resource material? Getting that leg up or getting a start by connecting with other people is a great way to get started. And then I work backwards. I do the backwards-based design where I'm looking at the objectives of the course, I'm looking at the different assessments I can use, and then building back into the content that I have. If you're just worried about the process right away, you can build some really great, well, you might think they're really great learning opportunities and lessons, but how do you evaluate them? Is that matching with the outcomes for the class? What are the real reasons for the students being there? So I like to build backwards.
The first thing you want to think about when planning a new course is what skills and knowledge your students are going to bring into your course. And the next thing you're going to think about is what skills and knowledge they're going to need when they finish your course. So not focusing on what you're planning on teaching, what the topics are you're going to cover, but really on what that first thing is they have when they get to your course and what they're going to need to have when they leave, and then you start filling in that middle area.
I also have, I call it a 3-year plan. So whenever I get a new course or a course that's new to me, I look at it in a 3-year window. So I feel that it takes 3 years to have a course that's okay, not great, and it certainly will evolve after that 3 years. But I look at it and go, okay, I'm going to go get through year 1. And if I'm really comfortable with the content, I might get to year 1.5 in that first year. But it allows me to apply some of the strategies that I know are going to work based on my knowledge of the learners. It's going to allow me to apply the technologies that I know will be effective, and as I get comfortable with some of the unknowns, then that I'm not making too many wild and crazy assumptions. So in that first year, you go through it with your eyes wide open, you're constantly assessing. I do exit slips with the students repeatedly. I ask for feedback outside of the regular course assessment, and then I take that information in between year 1 and 2, and generally I rip the course apart and rebuild it. And so that's great. I go into year 2 a little more confident, a little more familiar with the rhythm of the course and where things fit and where they don't fit to support learning. And then generally everything that worked well in year 1, some disaster happens in year 2. So when you're confident, yeah, this worked, and then, oh no, things change. And so I spend a lot of year 2 backfilling and making sure that the year 1 stuff does work, and making sure the things that didn't work in year 1 are also addressed. Generally by the 3rd year, I've got a handle on all those issues, the surprises, the rhythm, the cadence, the student experience, because I've had 2 full years of thorough assessment and student feedback. And then in that 3rd year, I build what I consider to be the best possible version of the class. And by the end of the 3rd year, I'm usually quite happy with the way a course has come together.
Really start planning, at least outlining sort of the types of assessments you're going to do after you've written your learning outcomes. And that way you can make sure that you're coming up with assessments that are going to align with the learning outcomes that you create for your course.
When you know what you want your students to leave the course with, then assessment should be there at the same time. You want to look at, okay, these are the skills maybe, these are the attitudes, the knowledge that they need to possess. But if you're trying to build courses and then tack on the assessment at the end without being really aware of the outcomes, then I think you're not going to be effective at doing that. So right away identify what they need to know, identify the assessment criteria, the assessment methods you may want to use. I also think that having a variety of assessments is really important, because you're going to have people that are really successful in one area, but I don't think that using one particular assessment method is going to be a true indication of people's success in the course.
The human brain likes it better, it can process information better when it's put into manageable pieces, manageable size pieces. And so when you're planning your course, you really want to look at how can different things you're going to be covering in your class fit into those manageable pieces, because that will make it much easier for your students to learn, and really it also makes it easier to teach.
So chunking is that, as I said before, that natural divide of information. How do I take a piece of content and break it up so that it feels natural, it flows from piece to piece, but it's still self-contained enough so that when you're learning it, you're not trying to learn so many other related things.